Krishna Pada Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravanya Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Bhaskachari Dasatarani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Ji Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Jnanatimandasya Janansanasyantam Sakshramritam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namah Chichaitayamanopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svamrabhakadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeyam Shiyuda Padkamam Shiram Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Jagajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagalita Shivshakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jatpate Kopesha Kopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Panamama Haripi Vankha Kalpta Visha Kripa Sinve Visha Padam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavina Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupada Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatyani Dasatarani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So today I will present the first session of a seminar from Shraddha to Prema. It is maybe good always, that is what Bhakti Charan Maharaj instructed me. If you go to a class, you take notes. Taking notes is very important. For reviewing these notes afterwards. Especially with this class, this seminar, I would say. It contains a lot of information which we have to review regularly. Because the devotional service is a process. It is a process from Shraddha to Prema. A process with 9 stages. And if we understand these stages, then we will be able to understand our position within these stages. So it's like you are going from here by car to Mathura, and not something I recommend, but if you would go by car and you drive, and at a certain moment you come in Surat, near to Mumbai. Are we on the right way? No. So we must know what's on the map. So these stages gives us a map, but we must understand the characteristics of these stages and where we are on the map. Only when we understand that will we be able to help others to advance. If we don't understand where we are, we cannot help others. So that's very important. I was traveling with Praladananda Maharaj for 15 years, 3 months every year, as his servant and as his secretary. And so I was traveling with him. And he taught me many times, you need to explain to devotees that Krishna consciousness is a process with stages, scientific, defined stages. How to go from one point to another. So this seminar is of course based on Madhurya Kanambini of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but not only. That is based on the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami, and on so many references from the Bhagavatam and also from Harinam Chintamani. It's broader than just Madhurya Kanambini. And I like to go in this seminar slow but deep. So we may not be able to finish each seminar in 7 days, but no way, that's because the first 5 stages are the most important. Shraddha, develop faith. Krishna consciousness is the development of faith. Shraddha, and then sadhu sangha, accepting a spiritual master, and following his instructions. He explains you how to do bhajan kriya. And in the beginning, this bhajan is anistita, is unsteady, and has 6 characteristics or stages, we can say. That, and then later it becomes nishtita, bhajana kriya, it becomes steady. And when it becomes steady, we are ready to enter anartha nivritti. Anartha nivritti, if we are able to avoid offenses. Apparats, that's the problem. And anarthas. And that when we enter, after a few years of practice, we will enter anartha nivritti. Not immediately. You need some. In the beginning, the effect is very weak, but when we come to anartha nivritti and we can avoid offenses, then it goes quickly. But to avoid these offenses, and means we have to develop a proper attitude. And the development of that proper attitude of respect can take 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And that's reality. But there are those who have extraordinary mercy, who have extraordinary mercy of the spiritual master, and have advancement already from previous lives, it can go quicker, much quicker. But that's very rare, very rare. Because once anartha nivritti is finished, we are coming to nishtha. Nishtha is a platform of liberation. If you come to nishtha, you are liberated. That liberated means Brahma Bhuta. Brahma Bhuta is a spiritual platform. Means prashanatma, completely peaceful. Na shoshati na kangshati. No material desires anymore. You don't desire anything in this world anymore. You don't hanker for anything. When you chant, you think of Krishna. Your mind is not going to the past or to the future. The past is lamentation, the future is hankering in this world. And when you are in the present, then you can go deeper. Then spiritual life begins really. Before, it's spiritual practice. Spiritual practice is like, Srila Prabhupada explains, like you have the young girl gets from the mother a toy kitchen. And she's imitating the cooking on her toy kitchen, practicing. So that's our situation up to nishtha. We are trying, but it's not yet a real thing. That and Harinam Chintamani says the same. First, you have to come to Namabhas. Namabhas is anartha nivritti. When this offenses against the holy name, when we give it up. And then one becomes purified very quickly. And then, if one comes to Namabhas, but that takes a while. Like I said, 30, 40, 50 years. And then you come to nishtha. Nishtha is the beginning of the Madhyam platform. Madhyam platform, Madhyam Adhikar, is these four categories, you remember? It sees the Lord and tries to develop love for the Lord. Understands who are devotees and non-devotees, and tries to develop a relationship with the devotees. And the third thing, is preaching to the innocent and avoids atheists. It's a preacher. So it is our duty to act on that platform, but that does not mean you are on that platform. You act as a Madhyamadikar, but you are still a Kanishta. But this Kanishta platform is going from the Shraddha to Nishtha. But there are those who are nearly at Nishtha after 30 years of practice, and there are those who are really beginners. There is a vast difference. There is a big difference between them. I was traveling with Prahlad Maharaj. He was all at that time, at the beginning of the 90s. In the 90s, he was already practicing Krishna consciousness for 30 years. He joined in 68. And he said to me, he had already many disciples and so on. He said, I'm a Kanishta. That's what he said to me. And that may be true. But at that time, he was nearly liberated. And I was a deep conditioned soul. Big difference. We need to understand this reality. That otherwise, we think ourselves, we imagine ourselves to be on Ruchi or our Shakti, the higher stages. But the higher stages, probably we will not come to that, but it's not so important. it's nice to know, but after a Nishtha, everything goes quick. Can go very quick. Like coming to Nishtha can take 30, 40, 50 years, but then in a few years you come to a Shakti, and then it goes very quick. But the higher stages are depending completely on the mercy of the Lord. It's not in our hands. Not in our hands. That very little. So it's important for us to understand the first stages and how to come to this anartha nivritti as soon as possible. Because Srila Prabhupada said, in this life you should come to the Madhyam platform, and then you will not take birth again. So, because anartha nivritti is going to purify you, and you come to Nishtha, but you will see that you are not yet completely purified, although you come to Nishtha. There are different things which there is still a slight bodily concept of life and so on. Up to the stage of Prema. Prema, it's finished. So that these are different stages, because someone asked Srila Prabhupada, if we are only 90% Krishna conscious, will Krishna accept us? Srila Prabhupada said yes, and then the devotee said, and 85%. And Prabhupada said yes, but he would not go lower than 80%. And that is, we have to come through this anartha nivritti first. Is nastabi is abhatrasu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagavatu tamaslaki bhakti bhagavata naistiki. By rendering devotional service to the spiritual master, and by hearing daily the Bhagavatam, one becomes nearly purified. So there is still something. And what is that something? Tatora jastamova kamadobasai sayasite sitere teranavitan stitve sattva prashidati. Because the influence of the mode of passion and ignorance is removed, and one comes to goodness. But goodness is still a material mode. From there, one has to go to transcendence, and that's the position of Nishtha. That then you can concentrate your mind on Krishna. So, Madhurya Kanambini is written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is called the Midway Acharya in the 17th century. That between Lord Chaitanya and us in the middle. But he was so absorbed in the teachings of Rupa Goswami that some devotees were thinking he's a reincarnation of Rupa Goswami, because he commented so deeply on the teachings of Rupa Goswami. And we see in the beginning of Madhurya Kanambini, his offering is obeisances to Lord Chaitanya and to Srila Rupa Goswami, and praise for their mercy. Of course, the Madhurya Kanambini is, in some sense, a commentary of Srila Rupa Goswami's verse, Adashata tata satu sangatya bhajana kriya tanakta nivrittisya tato nishtarujastata atasaktistato bhavastata prema dunanshati sadaka mamam prena pradurbavi bhavat kramaha. So that's the verse in which Rupa Goswami mentions the 9 stages of devotional service. But in the beginning of the Madhurya Kanambini, there we have Vishwanath Chakravarti is explaining the goal. The goal is having a relationship with Krishna, and the Lord is a rasa. We find that also in Nectar of Devotion, in the beginning of Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Swami defines Bhakti Ras. Bhakti Ras. It's the mellow, the spiritual sentiments of our relationship with Krishna. We have all a relationship with Krishna. We have these spiritual sentiments. And living in that relationship with Krishna means living absorbed in these spiritual emotions, these Bhakti Ras. And this Bhakti Ras is different from material Ras. That Rupa Goswami, those who have read Nectar of Devotion, may remember this Bhakti Ras, that it's not like a material ras, which is it's temporary, that it's continuously. Material ras is bhoga, tyag, and it is chapala sukha. So it's flickering happiness for some. It's not continuously that flickering happiness. And in the material world, yes, bhoga, tyag, that sometimes you enjoy, but mostly there is renunciation. Like the people are working, they go to work on Monday, and they go because, okay, Monday. I wish it's already Friday, and then Tuesday they think another day. Wednesday they think, okay, we are halfway, and then Thursday, that's good. Tomorrow it's the last day, and Friday they start to smile. So, and then the weekend comes, but the weekend is going so quickly that they quickly are again Monday. It's chapala sukha, it's flickering, and most of the time it's renunciation to get a little happiness. But Bhakti Ras is different, it's continuously living in a relationship with Krishna. But it is the highest consciousness, living in this Bhakti Ras. And therefore, we have the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur starts to quote from the Taittiriya Upanishad as part of the Shruti of the Vedas, which explains the Brahma Puja Pratishta. Brahma Puja, 5 stages of consciousness. That and this also explained in the purport of Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada explains these 5 stages. Annamaya, food consciousness. That's the first. And then the next stage is pranamaya. Most animals are food conscious. They that's what they do the whole day, trying to find food. But then a higher consciousness, it's annamaya. The next consciousness is, yes, there are also other living entities. That other living entities who are competing for the same thing, pranamaya, that they become conscious, I'm not alone, sometimes I have to fight for the food. That and then a higher consciousness than this is manamaya, that, or jnana moya also. That one thinking, feeling, and one understands I'm thinking, I'm feeling, I'm willing. So one understands, yes, these are the functions of the mind. And we see many times, most people in this world are on that level. The level of the emotions, the willing, that they become interesting in studying certain things, the intellect, but mostly this level of consciousness is limited to the sphere of the body and this world, like most people are on that level. Then a higher is Vijnana Moya. Vijnana Moya starts when one becomes interested in the spiritual side. One starts to understand I'm not this body. That's this body is going to die. How can I solve the problem? So then that's the Vijnana Moya. And one starts spiritual life, sadhana and so on, and starts to purify himself, that by spiritual practice. And then one comes to Ananda Moya. That Ananda Moya is the natural consciousness of the spirit soul, the pure consciousness. And and yes, that is what the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the cream of the Vedanta, that it describes that Lord Krishna is the embodiment of all rasa of pleasure. And pure Krishna consciousness is Ananda Moya, the pure consciousness. So you have different stages of consciousness. So this process from Shraddha to Prema will elevate us in consciousness. Our consciousness will become purified. And when we attain Prema, we have this Ananda Moya, always in ecstatic happiness. And so that's the first point that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making. Krishna consciousness is an elevation of consciousness. Of course, that elevation of consciousness is going together with spiritual education and commitment to the process. That's important to understand. If we preach to people, that's our aim, to raise their consciousness and to raise their commitment to the process of Krishna consciousness and their faith. So that is, and we can do that by education and engaging them. So the lotus rasa is that bhakti ras, and if we attain that bhakti ras, then we become joyful. And so the Lord is, the Bhagavatam establishes that the Lord is the embodiment of rasa, or pleasure. Because, of course, because we have different kinds of consciousness and different levels, we will see the world through our consciousness. We see the world through our consciousness. Like when Krishna entered and Balaram entered the wrestling arena in Mathura, Then Kamsa saw him as death personified. And all the impersonalist sadhus who were there saw him as the blissful Brahman. That's so, and the wrestlers saw them as thunderbolts. And the villagers of Vrindavan, they saw him as their child. Mother Yasoda saw him as his little son. And the gopis saw them as their lover. So different consciousness. Even on the spiritual platform, we have different levels of consciousness. Because we think, I've attained Prema. But no, Prema has also 7 stages. Pranaya, Sneha, Mana, Raga, Anuraga, and then Bhava as a stage of Prema, and then Mahabhav. This is the consciousness of the gopis. So different stages, even in Prema. We think, I attained Prema, it's finished now. It's quite intense. Of course, Krishna, for these impersonal sadhus see Krishna as Brahman, but Krishna says Brahmanoi Pratishtanam, last verse of the 14th chapter. I'm the basis of Brahman. So therefore, he concludes, the absolute truth is that blissful, transcendental, supreme person, which is Krishna, the king of Raj. So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur start to explain characteristics of Bhakti. And he explains that Bhakti is independent. Then he speaks about the cause of Bhakti and the role of his devotee in that cause. He speaks about what is not the cause of Bhakti, and that Bhakti is always independent. Karma and Jnana do not lead to Bhakti, but it's the opposite. Bhakti is the cause of Jnana and Vairagya. And the performance of Bhakti does not depend on one's purity or one's faith. So these are the points he makes in his introduction, and we will go over them one by one. So first, Bhakti is independent. So he writes, just as the Lord is not dependent on any material cause for his appearance, so is non-different energy, devotional service, in keeping with its self-manifesting nature, is not depending on a material cause. And then he goes to the Bhagavatam for the definition of pure devotional service. There are different definitions of pure devotional service, but in the Bhagavatam explains Savaipam Sapro Dharmo Yato Bhaktira Daksha Ahait Kapatya Yatma Shubhashidati. Yes. Savaipum, so for the humans, the Paro Dharma, the highest Dharma, is Bhakti. devotional service to adoxai, to the Lord who is not perceived by our senses. But this devotional service must have two qualities to count as pure devotional service. Ahaituk apatiyata yatma shubhashidati. Ahaituk means without material desires. That's just to please Krishna. And apatiyata means without interruption, always. So this is not a part-time job, a full-time job. That everything we do, we should do for Krishna. And if you have these two conditions fulfilled, only when you have these two conditions fulfilled, yatma shupashidati, then you will feel a great pleasure, great bliss, but only when these two are fulfilled. That ahait kapati yatma shupashidati. Because one may say, yes, it's nice, pure devotional service, but if I have to wait 30 years to get a bliss, that's not good. But Srila Prabhupada explains this, that he explains that in the purport of Bhagavad Gita 10.9, Machita machita prana bodhayantas praspam kartyantas mamnitantu shanti sharamantisha, that devotees always are blissfully conversing about Krishna, about his pastimes, and they derive great bliss from that. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada said that in the beginning of devotional service, one must derive the satisfaction from the service itself. So you may not be pure, but you perform the devotional service. You perform the devotional service in a pure way. In a pure way means, as described here, only for the pleasure of Krishna, and apratiyata, never interrupted. If you do that, you will find satisfaction in yourself. Not yet a great bliss. You may get a shadow of that bliss, maybe, if you are, but you will feel satisfied. No need for anything else. Even if the heart is impure, but and Rupa Goswami explains that also in the Nectar of Devotion. Iyayasya redasya karmana manasagari Nikala Shapavashyastu Jivan Mukta Sauchate. One who performs devotional service with his intelligence, his convictions, his mind, in his intelligence, only to please Krishna, he is acting as a Jivan Mukta, a liberated soul. He's not a liberated soul, but he's acting as a liberated soul. Then you act as the soul, not as the body. That's what Krishna consciousness is about, acting as the soul, not as the body. That is acting spiritually. And if you act spiritually, you will be satisfied. There are other definitions of pure devotional service. Narada Muni Sarvo Paudivinirimuktam Tat Paratvana Nirmalam Rishikena Shevanam Bhaktiratama. It means the devotional service. It means give up all your upadis, that all your coverings of consciousness where we think we are the body, but you act purely as a spirit soul, and that means pleasing the senses of the transcendental senses of the Supreme Lord, and that's acting as a spirit soul. course, you have Rupa Goswami, Anya Bilasa Sunyam, Kyanakramata Navadam, Anukulina Krishna, Usilanam Bhaktirutama. That's the definition, standard definition of devotional service. Anukulina, it must be to please Krishna. It must be favorable, that and without material motive, the same thing. So many definitions, all the same, all the same. Principle that we must satisfy the soul. You must be satisfied, feel satisfied within that. So, ahaituki means without material cause. That, of course, we know Bhakti is independent. That. In the Bhagavatam, we hear Vasudevi, Parvati, Bhakti Yoga Prayochita, Yanyasyati Varachyam Jnanam Sayat Ahaitukam. Devotional service, if we render this pure devotional service, that then immediately you get causeless mercy, knowledge and attachment. So how is that? What kind of knowledge do you get? And how does this knowledge cause the attachment? The knowledge is very simple. That, because we must be able to explain this. That knowledge is very simple because it's Sambandha Jnana. Sambandha Jnana means the knowledge that helps us to re-establish our relationship with Krishna. That's Sambandha Jnana. So Sambandha Jnana has different components. First you have to know who Krishna is. And then we must know who we are. Oh, you can only know who you are when you know who Krishna is. Because we are a part and parcel of Krishna. That it's explained in Bhagavad Gita, the 15th chapter. There are two kinds of living beings, the fallen and the infallible, fallible and infallible. And then beyond that, there is the Supreme, who is above the infallible and infallible. So that first you have to know that. And then when you understand that you are not Krishna, that you are a parcel of Krishna, then you can understand I'm a servant of Krishna. And then you understand that your natural position is one of servitorship. And then when you have understood who Krishna is, then you understand that Krishna is the cause of everything. So he is the real owner of everything, not us. Right? Nothing is ours. And therefore, we should use everything in his service. And that's the deeper meaning of Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means, real renunciation. Using everything in the service of Krishna. So, by performing devotional service, you get this knowledge of Sambandha Jnana. When you get this knowledge, then this Yukta Vairagya comes. And that causes you to detach yourself from this material world, because you see it as Krishna's property, and it's not for my enjoyment. That's the mistake we make. We think life is for enjoyment of the body. No, life is for enjoyment of the soul. Bhakti ras. That's higher enjoyment. This is a part of the purport of this Vasudeva Bhagavatam. I just read it to help us to get a deeper understanding. The principles of knowledge and attachment are two important factors on the path of transcendental realization. The whole spiritual process leads to perfect knowledge of everything material and spiritual, and the result of such perfect knowledge is that one becomes detached from material affection and becomes attached to spiritual activities. So I explained that, but here it says one becomes attached to spiritual activities. So that's the principle. When one becomes attached to Krishna, one becomes detached from this material world. That trying to become detached from this material world without attachment to Krishna is troublesome. That trying to be attached to Krishna and at the same time attached to this material world is sahaja. That doesn't work. So one must become attached to Krishna, and then gradually this comes, this detachment. Becoming detached from material things does not mean becoming inert altogether. No, we are going to use everything in Krishna's service, very active. So that's, yeah. And then it continues, Vishwanath Chakravarti. Some people take the word to mean this is by luck or chance. But that meaning is not suitable here. For them, one should be forced to inquire as to the origin of that good luck. Is it perhaps caused by material pious activities or something else? If one assumes that this good luck is generated from pious activities, then bhakti is likewise ultimately generated from subha karma. This is bhakti is dependent on material good work. But this is a contradiction with scripturally attested independent self-manifestation, manifesting nature of bhakti. So bhakti is independent, he says. It does not come from material good activities, from good karma. Because good karma is material. You will get material happiness for that in the future. So bhakti cannot come from that. That is what he says. That's not possible. Because this good karma is, from the spiritual point of view, also bad. Because to get that good karma, you have to take birth again. You have to take birth again and get this karma and get reactions of this karma. Is taking birth a very good thing and dying again? No. So good karma for a devotee is also bad. We don't want that. Neither good karma, bad karma. And then he says, if one argues that luck is not due to any pious activity, being indescribable by words and unknowable to the intellect, then it would be insubstantial and could not be accepted as a cause. If one proposes that the cause of bhakti is the Lord's mercy, one must then find a reason for the mercy. So, okay, it doesn't come from this material pious activity. But then, okay, it's the Lord's mercy, but how do we get the Lord's mercy? There must be a cause of that mercy. That's the point is making. So this statement gives rise to further need for explanation. If one therefore responds that the cause of the Lord's absolute, unqualified or causeless mercy, then the Lord seems to show favoritism because bestowing it, since the unqualified mercy should but does not fall upon everyone equally. So the point is here, the Lord is described as being partial to his devotee. So is that a fault in the Lord's character? That no, it is something that enhances his character. It's the Lord's affectionate obligation towards his devotees. That, of course, we have in the Bhagavad Gita, the verse 9:27 or 28, Samam sarvabheshaduna namitveshtinapaya yebhajantumam bhaktya maitete sapyam. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm also a friend in him. So here it said, I'm equal to anyone. As a super soul, I'm equal to everyone, gives them their reactions and so on. But to my devotee, I take personally care of him. But is that unfair? No. Everyone has there's the free will to become a devotee. Nobody forces you to be a demon. So it's our free will. But Yeyatamam papachante tamste vajamyam, Krishna reciprocates according to our surrender. In Bhagavad Gita 7:14, 16, Krishna says, there are 4 who are not surrendering to me, 4 who are surrendering to me, and so on. But then, how to get the mercy of the Lord to get this bhakti? And that we will discuss tomorrow. Any questions? 2 o'clock. Please, questions about what we have discussed, if possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your Maharaj, faith, bhakti is also dependent on faith, or is it independent? Faith.
Yeah. Bhakti is a development of faith. But it's not dependent on that faith. It's independent. And that we will discuss tomorrow. That comes. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
You said about Prema, there are different stages of Prema. Can you please repeat?
Well, they may not be in the right sequence, but I think it's pranaya, mana, sneha, raga, anuraga, bhava, and mahabhav. Mahabhav is the gopis, Lord Chaitanya, Srimad Radharani. Anurag, our Acharya says Queen Kunti was it, Anurag, great attachment to Krishna. Anyway, there's so many. Does that help? Okay. Yes?
Maharaj, you said that bhakti cannot come from mercy of Lord. So, but can it come from the causeless mercy? Are these two different things?
That we will. Bhakti comes from the mercy of the Lord, but that he gives his devotee the freedom, his pure devotee, to give it. We will discuss that tomorrow. That's coming also. Good. Something else? Yeah.
Maharaj, as you mentioned that bhakti is independent. It's like from 3 modes of material nature. Mode of goodness is also material, but still it helps to grow in bhakti. So how to understand?
Yeah, the mode of goodness is a springboard to transcendence. So mode of goodness is sattva, and transcendence is Suddha sattva. So the sattva in this world, it is said in Bhagavad Gita, these three modes are always competing with each other. So it's never really pure. It's never really pure. But Suddha sattva, and it's not really pure, and the mundane sattva is binding also. It's binding, that's also explained. But if we come to sattva guna, we understand we are not his body. We understand the reality. And we can understand the process, how to get out of it. So it's illuminating. It gives you knowledge that will help us to advance in devotional service. Therefore, a devotee, his lifestyle is in a mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one is very clean. One gets up early in the morning. That's important. Guru Maharaj said for 4 o'clock you have to get up. So many of our god brothers and god sisters at home, they set their clock at 5 to 4. But yeah, we have to early get up, take a shower, and then to put tilak and so on. This is a lifestyle in the mode of goodness, clean clothes. And by living in the mode of goodness, we become more, we create our capability to understand Krishna and devotion, the process of devotional service, and to understand the scriptures. So it's very important. Varnashram, the purpose of Varnashram is to bring one to goodness, everyone to goodness. That's the purpose. Therefore, it's also important to develop Varnashram, but Varnashram is always secondary to Bhakti and should never overrule it. And that's also explained here by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So the mode of goodness is very important for us. We want to stay away from this passion and ignorance as much as possible. We have to preach sometimes and face the opposition of rajas and tamas to please Krishna. But we should be strongly rooted in our Krishna consciousness. Then it's no problem. Does that help? Understand? Thank you. Yes,
Maharaj, will a devotee with a strong material desire, will he go to heaven, or like because he's performing devotional services plus having material desires, or like since he's a devotee, then again he will come back as a devotee because he wants to continue devotional services?
Well, that is what explained in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. A short practice and a long practice. One who has a short practice will have still strong material desires in his heart. And he goes first to heaven, and then he comes back. And is take birth with the rest of his good karma in a good family, rich family, so that he doesn't have to work too much, and can again practice devotional service. But those who are on the platform of sadhana and are fixed in their sadhana, they come quickly above that. They are quickly above that. They fall then in the second category. Long practice, but not getting the 80% yet of purification. Then you take birth in a family of devotees and so on. And that's what Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. That he said, I was in that case, Srila Prabhupada said, I was born in a family of pure devotees. Of course, Prabhupada was already on the transcendental platform, but out of humility. And I said also, my spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati took birth in a family of pure devotees, and by the transcendental system of Guru Parampara, we met each other. So that's nice. That our Krishna brings us together. And that's always to consider. We are all together here. With Krishna bringing us together. Because we have all some sincerity to develop devotional service. We may be all on different levels, but Krishna has brought us together. And He's doing that. Because that's always important to consider. Krishna is the cause of everything. So the material world is His effect. But the cause must be in the effect. That's logic. So Krishna is in everything. We cannot be separated from Krishna. The sense of being separated from Krishna is illusion. Yeah. Anyway, something else. Yeah, please.
Question of Prakash, like he's telling that, like you told about the process, but sometimes we find very difficult to execute that process. So how to execute that process?
Yeah, that's explained by Lord Krishna in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Saying the best is you think always of me. But that can only be done by pure devotee. If you cannot do that, then follow the principles of Bhakti Yoga. Perform a sadhana. Chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra. Associate with devotees and hear about Krishna in association of devotees. But if you cannot do that, if you are not ready for that, then do service for Krishna. So we can. These are the stages. So if you are not ready for that level, you do service. But once you are in the sadhana, and that is something I wanted to stress today in my presentation. If you perform sadhana, do it purely, with a pure heart. With a pure desire to please Krishna, and nothing for yourself. And then try to give all your affection in your service, in the chanting, and that will enable you to easily stay on that level of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, following these rules and regulations. Then it becomes easy. But if you have different motives in the heart, you will find it difficult. So we spoke about pure devotional service. Pure devotional service, you can perform pure devotional service and still be very much contaminated in the heart. But your motive should be right. You should do it always. That should be your strive. So that is important here. If that's not right, then you will not feel satisfied, and you will not be satisfied. It's difficult to continue. Does that make sense? Okay. Something else? Yes.
My question is, like you told about material rasa and bhakti rasa. So, like we have experience of material rasa, bhog and tyag, but regarding bhakti rasa, we don't have any taste. So, we have to see, and like for material rasa we have demonstration also, but for bhakti rasa we have to get the practical demonstration.
Yeah.
We can have some faith and we can go for that.
Like you said, that we must develop this taste. The Bhagavatam explains how to develop this taste. Shushrusha dadanasya vasdev kataruchit shanmat sevyayam vipra punyatirtha nishevanat. Shushrusha, you hear about Krishna. Shraddha, Srila Prabhupada translated as with great care and attention. And at the same time, you serve the Mahatma, the spiritual master. You engage in his service. You do service for pleasing the spiritual master. And you have to hear. If you don't hear every day about Krishna, and you don't perform service, and you don't have association with devotees, that will not develop this taste. But if you do that, this taste will develop. And that's how you get taste. Hearing about Krishna and following the instructions of the spiritual master. That's the two things. Rendering service to the spiritual master and hearing daily the Bhagavatam. That gives you taste, and that will help you to purify the heart. So unless you do that, you don't have the taste. That is this verse from the Bhagavatam, Shraddha, the taste-giving verse. How to get taste, it's explained there. Okay? Good, our time is over. And I look forward to continue this introduction tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Bhakti Maharaj ki Jai. Prabhupada ki Jai.